What's going on, everybody? We are here with Ares Games, and we're here with Jim from Ares, and we're going to be getting a demo of Battlestar Galactica Starship Battles, and these are really, really nice looking miniatures. Now, the miniatures are actually a production copy, but everything else is still prototype right now. A lot of this is still 3D printed, so the finished product may be a little bit better, but so far, may I touch these?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. These are really something else. And I like the scale. These are bigger ships than you get in X-Wing, and so you're really getting. Look at this. That's really something. Really like these, and these Cylon Raiders too. They're scary. Very scary looking. Awesome, awesome. All right, so tell me about Battlestar Galactica Starship Battles.
So if you're familiar with the Ares Games Wings of War, either World War I, World War II,
okay,
or even Sails of Glory, you will have a rough idea of how to play. So those lines are all unified by the same maneuver mechanic, meaning you plan your moves, moves are executed simultaneously,
okay,
combat happens simultaneously,
all right,
and you plan the next move. So you're always planning a little bit in ahead.
All right.
And so this shares that theme. So what we've tried to do with this product is make the theme for the movement and mechanic, the game piece, match the theme of the intellectual property for both the original series and the reimagined series.
Sure.
Okay?
All right.
So what you're seeing here is the result of that process. Okay? So in this game, a couple things happen that players of Wings of Glory are going to understand very well. You plan moves in advance,
okay,
you execute your moves, then you have combat. Combat is regulated by your firing arc and a range, which is through the range rulers.
Okay, these are the range rulers?
Yep.
And the firing arc is actually pretty narrow, at least when you compare it to games like X-Wing and Armada.
It is. And there's actually a good reason for that. So, and we'll explain that as we go further through the process.
All right.
So if I can take one of the Vipers here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, one of the things that happens is, you are right, it is a shorter firing arc. Like many of the games, you use a ruler, you go through the front firing arc. If it hits a part of the base, then you've got an attack.
Okay.
But one of the things that happens that's different is this room actually has a dice that you roll in the firing mechanic. So every ship has an attack value.
Okay. Attack
Now,
value of 6.
This can be modified by the pilot. So the better pilots like Apollo and Starbuck, etc., they're going to hit quite a bit more often, even within the same range. So again, we're trying to add more granularity on one level, but on the second part, the characters are so integral to what's going on that you really have to make allowances in a game like this so that you have the characters be able to shine through, and that's what they've done. So in this case, a standard Viper pilot shooting needs to roll a 6 or higher on 2 dice. If they hit,
7 would do it.
7 would do it. Okay. They're going to do damage. One of the things that's interesting about the dice, though, is that if you happen to roll a pair of 6s, if each dice result is enough to hit, you basically double your damage.
Ah, so like a critical almost.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you can do more. So it's not this straight kind of beat down. There's cases where things sort of have damage spikes to them.
Okay. Okay.
So movement adds another element as well to take into consideration of what's going on with 3D and with actually fighting in space. So unlike planes in space, which unfortunately that's what a lot of space combat is.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, customers like it, they're having a good time, there's no problem with that. What we tried to do, though, was try to provide a little more realistic experience in regard to momentum. So the control panel here tells you a couple of things. So when you plan your move, you're actually planning and you're doing the speed. So you're deciding what the speed is. You're deciding what your rotation is.
And this is done in secret?
And done in secret.
So you can basically have it face down.
So you hold it like this, and you play your cards, and then you say, okay, here's what I'm doing. The last piece is momentum. Okay?
All right.
So this actually tracks your kinetic movement as you're going forward. So one of the things that happens is there's a maneuver card that is actually a rotation. So instead of applying thrust and moving forward, what you actually do is then this becomes live. So you could actually move this and change this and to deceive your opponents. But when you play a rotation, it actually becomes live. So in this case, this says I'm turning in a different direction. So I go here, I hold this up. So instead of going this way, even though my momentum is still carrying me like this, I'm actually now turning and firing at this guy right here.
Excellent.
Okay.
And that's so much fun.
And so now what happens?
So strafing, yeah.
So now what happens is if I don't apply thrust in this new direction, I will keep drifting based on just my own inertia, if you will. Okay.
Excellent. And you
So-
can line up shots that you might not have been able to make otherwise.
Exactly. So having the narrower firing arc makes a lot of sense when you have that kind of pivot ability on all the different ships. You don't need a wide firing arc, but it does add a tactical challenge because you have to think about it a little bit harder about what you're doing. And again, since you're planning in advance, you have to anticipate what the enemy's going to do, and outthinking them becomes a really critical part of the game.
Absolutely.
Now right here, the last part of the this, whether you're going up or down, rotation and speed, including going backward, here is your kinetic energy. Now with the kinetic energy, this just says if you are going really, really fast and you have a kinetic energy of 6, you can't stop on a dime in space.
Absolutely, I agree. Okay.
So what would happen is planes have an acceleration rating, and it rates their ability to go to speed up and slow down both. Okay. So in the acceleration rating, what happens is if I'm going along at a 6, I can't just stop at 0 with play a card that just kills all my kinetic energy. Based on an acceleration of 3, I can only go down to a 3. So I am required to play cards that at least keep my momentum going to at least 3. And then I can go down lower and go down lower. So it takes a couple of turns to go from a 6 down to a 0, typically.
All right.
Okay. Now, of course, pilots who are really, really good at working their controls, they get a little bit of an advantage. So characters like Crabbok, who are ace pilots and have a lot of skill, they can kind of cheat the system a little bit because of their abilities. But basically, you're going to take some time to slow down in space as it should be.
Okay.
All right?
Awesome. So firing. Now you mentioned that if you're at close range, you're going to get an extra die, was it, or
You get a +1.
Okay.
So let's say we've got a situation like this.
Okay.
The Viper's going to take a shot at short range. Okay.
Right.
What happens is you draw a damage counter. So those familiar with World War II will understand drawing damage counters. If it at short range, if it has a plus right there, then you would have to draw another counter face down. At short range, the first counter is face up. Okay, so you can see it's got a plus, and then you only do the plus counter once. So in this case, I just did.
Okay, so that'd be 7 extra.
Exactly.
Okay.
Points of damage.
That's extra points of damage.
Yeah. So
so that 5 is a little bit more rare, isn't it?
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's a good roll. So I've done 7 points of damage, and as you can see here, there is also special damages. So we've got a variety of special damages going as well. You can damage the fin, you can damage the pilot, you can damage the engine, just like the World War II and World War I games. The structural integrity of the machine starts to degrade over the battle. So even though you might not have knocked it completely out of the sky, you've made it harder for the pilot to keep control of the spacecraft.
All right, excellent. Very cool. And so now, and I'm assuming structure is your health, your hit points.
Structure is your health, exactly.
And a
right.
normal attack without any of those modifiers, how much damage would that do? Or does it all depend on what you draw?
It depends on what you draw. It could be a 0.
Okay.
It could just be scratching the paint, or it could be something. 5, I believe, is the highest that we start with. Might be a 6 in here.
Okay.
So it runs again kind of from 0 to 6.
All right, outstanding, outstanding. And so now, tell me a little bit about elevation. How does elevation work in this? Is that I believe is that also controlled here on the?
So we can put pegs underneath here to show the different levels of elevation.
Okay.
One of the things we found out with World War I and World War II is that for most people, elevation just adds time without adding more fun.
Okay.
So with elevation, the thing that they run into is if you're up here and I'm down here, I can't shoot at you even though it looks like we're really, really close. And so changing the elevation, while it's absolutely accurate, without having that 3D effect and being in the cockpit and understanding what's going on.
Right.
For many, many players, just playing on a flat field speeds up the game and makes it, you get more shooting and less maneuvering.
Makes it feel like more of a board game and less of a flight sim.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what we've done here is we've tried to facilitate moving up and down for one. So there's no gravity, so you can go up and down just as easy as you want to. Just by saying, I want to go up, I'm just angling up a little bit or down. You can go up or down a level as simple as
Okay.
changing that.
Okay.
There's no diving and climbing per se because there's no gravity to slow you down or to speed you up. Now, when you shoot between the levels, we use the back side of the combat ruler.
Oh.
Okay, and so whereas before on the other games, basically the range got cut in half if you were a level of difference. Now we actually apply some math to this, and we can actually see although the level is shorter, it's not half. So so now we've got short range, medium range, and long range. So if this Cylon were a level higher, and I'm using the back of the ruler, I can say, well, I'm at medium range, I can still get a shot off.
Okay.
If you're more
And then
than-
this thin white line is short range in this case?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So
okay.
the star marks where you're to 15 centimeters.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
So, and then if you're more than 2 levels different, you're too far away to shoot.
Okay. Okay.
But because you can go up and down so easily, elevation becomes a much more used component of the game.
Well, no, absolutely. Especially if you want to just stay on the -1 plane, then you're just going to either require them to come down or stay at the middle plane and be less accurate.
If you're at 1, and so we have some pegs that you can keep rising. So we're all starting say at level 1. If you go down to -1 and you're at 0, that's fine. If you go to -1, you're -1. So it really is 3D. So if I start at 1,
Oh, so
I can
it's
go
not
up to
only
2.
3 planes. There's more than 3.
I
Oh, I
can
see.
go up to 3 to 4 to 5. I can just keep.
You can only
climbing
just
it.
do one at a time.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
That makes
so
sense.
then it's just a matter of, well, am I trying to flee the fight, or am I actually trying to get some type of tactical?
Okay. Well, that sounds really fun. So when is the expected launch date for this
So
game?
our hope is to have it out at Thanksgiving time in retail stores. We're looking to try to debut this at PAX Unplugged in Philadelphia in middle of November, and hopefully we'll have some more stuff to show at Essen.
Oh, well, glad to hear it. And I know that you guys have said that there's a long-term plan to be able to have the capital ships out as well, maybe the following year if everything goes well.
Exactly. So how you represent a ship that's bigger than our booth in a scale this size, so we can't do a full-size Battlestar Galactica, so how best to represent it on the table that makes sense to players and makes sense to the game itself. So we're still working on some of the nuances of that.
Sure.
But things like Battlestar Galactica, Pegasus, Colonial One, those are, and the base stars that they have for the Cylons, those are absolutely things that are in the works.
That sounds fun, man. I think one of the things is I know a lot of people, even if they're not that interested in the game, would probably buy something like that just to have, especially if it's a nice model.
It looks good on your desk. And you can see from the paint job here, these are not the
These
final
are
paint job. They will only get better as we continue
and their
to
numbers
tweak.
are different. Their serial numbers are actually different
Yes.
numbers. Which
So
is
we've
really
actually got a generic pilot, and we've actually got Apollo's ship here.
wow. That's amazing. Those are really, really pretty. All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for giving me this demo, and I want to encourage everybody to check this game out. We're looking to hopefully have it around Thanksgiving, so stay tuned for more from Ares and more from Battlestar Galactica.